Hey everybody. Now, if there's one thing all of us could use, it's some video content to help us push our services. I know I need to up my video game, especially if I want to make it in the super difficult landscape that's forming. Like between AI content and all of the competition that's already out there, I just don't know any way to keep up other than to hire freelancers. There are a couple platforms that can do you some good if you're in a situation like mine. Today, I'll be focusing on Upwork and Billo. They both bring some pros and cons to the table, but in the end, only one of them will end up being my personal pick. Let's get the ball rolling and talk about pricing. There are two sides of this coin to discuss. Firstly, we need to talk about how much of the cut each platform takes. You see, you're not just paying for the freelancer who's doing the job for you. You've also got to pay the platform a cut. It's basically a service charge that allows the platform to stay up and running, but let me tell you, some freelancing platforms go a little overboard on that front. Upwork doesn't have that problem though. Despite them increasing their service charges a couple years ago, it used to be a super reasonable 3%, but they upped it to 5%. I still feel like that's a reasonable price to pay though. Like if you're paying someone $300 to make a video for you and you have to pay $15 on top of that, I'd say that's a fair compromise. After all, Upwork is connecting you to these vendors, so they obviously deserve to generate some revenue of their own. If that 5% was the only extra charge you were looking at, I'd give Upwork a 5 out of 5 and call it a day. But the thing is, there's another charge that might make certain jobs kind of unaffordable for some of you. I'm talking about the contract fee. Basically, you have to pay $4.95 for each new contract you initiate. That's not a huge amount, especially if you're paying for a high quality freelancer with appropriate charges, but it can be a costly expense for folks on a tight budget. Like imagine you're paying $100 for a service. Not only would you have to pay $5 as a service charge, you'd have to pay the $4.95 contract charge too. That basically makes the service charge a hefty 10% at the end of the day. To be fair, that doesn't matter as much for the high value contract, but I felt like it was worth mentioning regardless. So how does Billo stack up? Well, if we focus on how much of a cut they're taking, Billo seems like it deserves a full score too. But like I've said before, there's another side to this coin, namely the amount you need to pay for the content. It's safe to say that both platforms are evenly matched in this department. Billo has a bunch of different packages ranging from $500 to $15,000, and the price per video is anything from $100 to $60 a pop. And that's pretty reasonable, and it's practically the same price that you'd pay over on Upwork for similar content. But there's a catch that makes Billo seem, let's say, less than ideal. You kind of have to pay for a bunch of videos up front and roll them out gradually over the course of a marketing campaign. So if you just want one video, you'll have to pay $500 for it. That's not the case over on Upwork, where you just pay for what you want at any given time. In light of this, I'm thinking both platforms get a 4 out of 5. Upwork service charges can be pretty high, but Billo's package payment plans can make it pretty pricey as well. Okay, why don't we talk about the kind of work we can expect? Right off the bat, I feel like we need to outline some major differences between Upwork and Billo. So Upwork is a general freelancing platform that connects you with a wide range of talent. Billo, on the other hand, is focused exclusively on user-generated content. Or rather, you can purchase UGC from influencers that specialize in that sort of thing, which can be really useful for boosting a marketing campaign. Does this impact the quality of work you receive? Not exactly, but I will say this. Upwork does a really good job of mitigating the risk associated with hiring freelancers. And I don't know if I can say the same thing about Billo. I mean, sure, there are tons of really great creators on the platform. Many of them will give you some top-notch videos. I mean, I was definitely surprised by how professionally shot my video was. And the fact that the influencer instinctively knew what I wanted was super impressive as well. But with that said, some creators on Billo just don't belong there. They churn out subpar stuff, and you don't get the same level of arbitration support that you would over on Upwork, for example. This means that there's a good chance you'll waste your money on Billo, which is something that definitely won't happen over on Upwork. Now, I'm not saying that you're guaranteed to get bad work over on Billo. I already mentioned that I personally got solid video content, but the risk is there, and you have to keep in mind, even a 10% risk is a big deal, right? Anyway, if we ignore a few bad apples, Billo's talent pool sure has a knack for delivering what you're looking for. It's just a matter of finding the right person. Upwork's definitely a cut above its competitor in this area though, so I'm giving it a full 5 out of 5. I mean, most of the freelancers there have college degrees in a field, which should tell you a thing or two about how serious they are about the work. Billo doesn't do too badly, but those bad apples force me to knock a point off. That's a 4 out of 5 for Billo, for a total of 8 out of 10, which is close behind Upwork's 9 out of 10 so far. But we still have the user experience and features to talk about. Okay, so there's a process for hiring people on both platforms. Let's break them down, shall we? Both platforms require you to submit a job or a service description of some kind. This will get shown to freelancers and creators who can then submit a proposal. Except whichever proposal seems to make the most sense to you, and then you're good to go. I will say that Billo's onboarding process is extremely straightforward. Like, there's a good chance you'll find the right creator the day you post the job. Although you might have to put a bit of work in, weeding out those bad apples I talked about. On Upwork, however, that weeding out process isn't quite as important. That's mostly because of the phenomenal search function. All it takes is a few seconds of typing to find a bunch of freelancers qualified for your project. You can go through their portfolios to see if you like their style, and there's also a handy rating that helps you figure out if they're worth their salt. Billo also has a rating system, but some folks have said that it's not as reliable as Upwork's. I'm not knocking on Billo's user experience though. Overall, there's a very short learning curve. And the platform's pulled out all the stops to make it as easy as possible to work with a creator. Upwork is also up there in this area, with options like live video calling and chatting allowing you to conduct interviews with freelancers before even hiring them. Upwork also has some solid features I'd like to talk about. Like, for starters, there are project management dashboards that let you keep track of how much progress your freelancers have made. You can also set milestones to avoid having to pay the entire amount before the project is done. Instead, you can pay for it bit by bit as the freelancer hits each milestone, which is a great way to avoid losing money on bad work. Clearly, both of the platforms have their strong suits. Billo has a couple weaknesses like the absence of interviewing options, but it still deserves a solid 4 out of 5. As for Upwork, I can't give it anything less than a 5 out of 5 here. The user experience is phenomenal, and there are features that you just don't get over on Billo. So there you have it. Upwork is my official pick in this comparison. With a final score of 14 out of 15, you can tell that there's a lot to love on this freelancing platform. Billo ended up with a 12 out of 15, which reflects the above average experience I got. In the end, Upwork won out because of the efforts it's put into maintaining a high standard of work, not to mention the slew of features that make your life so much easier as a client. The diversity of talent they've got over there definitely didn't hurt either. Also, if you haven't signed up for Upwork yet, you can use the link down below to get $50 applied to your account when you make your first hire. So what do you think? Will you give Upwork or Billo a try? Let me know if you do. That's all I have for now, and I'll see you guys in the next one.